Hi everyone, and welcome to ABG Fireside Chats. My name is Nikola Kalinowski, and I'm an equity research analyst here at ABG. With us today we have Oliver Lundgren, CEO of Skolon. Welcome, Oliver.
Thank you very much.
I think if we could just begin with a basic question. Could you please briefly describe Skolon to us? What does the company do? What does the business model look like?
Yes, absolutely. So Skolon is a SaaS edtech company providing a platform for teachers and students where they can gather all their teaching applications in one place. Today we have over 700,000 paying users on the platform, and the business model is a revenue-based model where we have subscription fees for customers where they can subscribe for the platform, but also the content that they use on the platform. And we also have a revenue share model with the content providers providing all the content on the platform. So that is Skolon, and that is also the business model. So operating in school, similar to B2B, you can say.
Yeah. And if we could just take us through the value proposition of Skolon in terms of what value do you provide to the end users and also to, as we understand it, the partners that you collaborate with?
Yeah, so the end users is teachers and and students in schools. And for them, it's about time saving as a starter. So when we started Skolon, we looked at how is technology used in the classroom. And we could see that it could take up to 10 minutes to get going with your teaching materials in the classroom. And that needs to be solved in just 10 seconds. And there is where Skolon is today. So we help saving a lot of time in the classroom scenario, freeing up time for education, which should be the purpose. But we are also in the way of handling data, securing GDPR and so on. So we are helping the schools secure their data, which data is synced to which systems, and live up to the regulations regarding GDPR. Last but not least, for the customer, we are also helping them to improve their learning. So improved learning by knowing which material they have, which content can they use in which scenario. Helping teachers there is also an important part. So there will be more learning in the schools. For the partner, the other side of the business, we are helping them to reach their customers in a cost-efficient manner. So with one integration, they can reach out to hundreds of thousands of users in one place, saving time for customer-specific integrations. And instead of doing that, they can spend their time on doing even better content and create more value for their users. We can also provide them with a cost-efficient sales channel inside the Skolon platform.
Yeah, that sounds very attractive in terms of a value proposition standpoint. I think if we just delve a little bit into the market and the competition. So the edtech market is quite new. It's up and coming.
Absolutely.
It's growing rather quickly. You know, what would you say are the key drivers of growth in the Nordics and also internationally for the edtech market?
Yeah, so absolutely, as you say, the market is quite new. And if you compare it to like the B2C industry or the industry overall, you will see that in schools we have been a bit behind on digitalization and use of technology. Now it's coming, and I would say that the key driving factor is the possibility to really improve learning, where you can individualize learning, it can be more personalized, we can have a more diverse set of learning and so on. So really improve the learning quality and get new ways to learn is one big area. But another big area is helping teacher workload, take away things that need to be done manually, more time-saving new systems and so on. So digitalization plays a big part both in the classroom scenario, but also in the school overall, saving time and making it possible to use resources more cost efficiently.
Yeah. And in terms of the competitive landscape, what would you say that it looks like in Sweden, and which is your largest market, and then also internationally where you're quite rapidly expanding?
Yeah, so if you look at the global scale, I would say we have 3 to 4 companies doing similar things as we do if we look at the global market. Here in the Nordics, none of them besides us are operating. So here the competitive landscape is more about local solutions, customers working in a manual way, things like that. If we look to the UK, a new market, the competitive it's more competitive there, but it's also a lot bigger market, so we don't see that as a problem. And when we then look to Europe, which is a very interesting area going forward for us, we see that the market for now is very open there, so that is absolutely an interesting opportunity to, like, which can be the player doing this over several markets. I think that is a very interesting possibility going forward.
Yeah, I think if we tie on to some of the earlier questions, how do you see the relationship between you, the end user, and the partners evolve in the future, given that you're going into new markets?
Yeah, that is absolutely an interesting question, because when we now add more users in more market, we will definitely become a more relevant and more attractive partner, I would say, to the content providers, because the integrations they have already made can now be used for even more users, so they can create more value with an investment in technology they have already done. We can help new content providers reach more users. We can also be attractive for international content providers that want to reach out in several markets and so on. So I think we can strengthen that partnerships a lot going forward, which also helps the content provider free up time to have even better solutions, as we were talking about before. So I really see that it's possible to get more value for students and teachers by strengthening the partnerships with more users in the platform in more markets.
Definitely sounds like it will evolve in a positive way. And I think if we delve a little bit into numbers, you reported about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you grew organically by nearly 100% in terms of sales. Could you help us unpack that figure? How much came from higher volumes, that is the number of subscribers, versus how much came from a higher price per subscriber? Could you help us unpack those figures a little bit, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So the number of users we added last year was a big amount. We added 38% of the amount of new paying users in the platform the last year. So we grew the user base extensively last year. So that of course contributed to the number, but also a growing income per user, where we see that they use more functionality in the platform. They want to upgrade the platform with more functionality, which is in line with our strategy, because we have developed some new features during the last year, and we see that the adoption rate of that is growing. We also see that the customer are buying more content on the platform from us instead of in other channels. So that is also a factor of the growth. So combining these two gives us that 100% growth in the core values. So regular price increases for this year was very low. It's more about adding more value, adding more functionality, and adding more users from both existing and new markets.
Yeah. So partly, volume-driven growth, and then upselling, as you
Exactly.
are the key drivers rather than a price increase by itself.
Exactly. Definitely.
I think if we just delve a little bit deeper into the gross margin, I think that can be easily misunderstood in your case, because typically the faster you grow, perhaps the more negative of an impact it'll have on the gross margin. So I think if you could just explain the dynamic between top line growth and gross margins, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I will try to do that. So if you look at the user growth, and when we grow the number of users in that amount that we have done now, it will have a short-term effect on the gross margin, and that is because when we add new users, the users come on directly, but the income from that user will grow over time. We also have, especially when we have a lot of the new users in new markets, so that is a factor. We also see that the customers coming onto the platform, they are coming on maybe on a more basic version of the platform, doing upgrades over time, adding more content over time, and so on. So and then of course in new markets we also have a factor of like new offers for the market, going in with customer specific offers and so on. So we see that there will be better over time on that new customers coming in. So that will have an effect on the margin, as you're talking about. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think absolutely. That's very helpful to understand the price that the customer pays over time, and the fact that they are getting more total value.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also see that the lifetime value of the customer is very long, because we have a very almost zero churn rate in the platform, which means that the important part here is that can we add new users? Can we create value for them? Yes, we can, and then we also see that we can grow with that customer over time. That is like in the short term, I think the most important part, that we create value for the users and that we continue to add them onto the platform.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful. I think if we continue on a little bit on the topic of growth, you've expanded in the Nordics,
Yeah.
and now you've also elected to expand into the UK, which is a much bigger market. Could you perhaps give us a little bit of color on how you see growth geographically and the potential that you see in other countries?
Yes, absolutely. So if we look at the UK market, we had our first year last year. It was a good first year. We added 50,000 paying users in the platform. We onboarded them successfully. So now we have strong references in place. We know that we can create user value in a much bigger market than the Nordic ones. So very, very interesting in looking forward in the UK. And if we look at the European market, as I said earlier, we see them as very open. We see a lot of potential there, and we have said that we want to strive to become a market leader in a European context. So of course we're looking at the bigger European markets going forward, and we see possibilities. We know that the Nordics are ahead when it comes to the use of digital technology in schools. So I think that could be an advantage as well when we look at that. So we're seeing possibilities in the European Union, and one key factor for us is that we are fully GDPR compliant. We know that will be an advantage for us compared to our competitors. When we look at the European markets, we have all of that in place, and we can work with that as one of our advantages as well.
Yeah, that certainly sounds favorable to be GDPR compliant and also to be compliant with other regulations, especially in the EU.
Yeah, and we see now that when we look at EdTech and the regulations coming from the EU, they try to standardize more and try to help the different member states with certain regulations and so on. So I think like we are compliant with all of them, and we can also use that. We know we have a strong proof of concept in the Nordics, and we can use that going into other regions as well. So I think that will be an advantage for us compared to other maybe US players and stuff like that.
Yeah, perfect. And I think if we just jump a little bit into the balance sheet and the latest quarterly report, you have previously divested STT.
Yes.
And in conjunction with that, you, or the board rather, proposed an extraordinary dividend recently. Could you tell us, what the rationale was behind the dividend and your reflection on the company's balance sheet?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, that maybe stands out in like the times we are now and other tech companies and so on. But if we look at the last 2 years, we have seen that we can grow more than our financial target. We can do that with a positive cash flow. So we have seen that, and when we look forward, we feel that we can achieve the market expansion that we want to. We can invest in new technology, which is also a possibility for us, and we can continue to do that with the capital we have. So with that background, we feel like, okay, this decision, that's good for our current shareholders, and we think it's also quite a strong message to the market regarding our strong financial position. So that's the rationale and the thinking behind that, I would say.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have confidence in your capitalization.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also feel confident in the journey we are going and like the goals we have and what we will do even on that side as well.
Excellent. And I think if we go a little bit more long term in terms of the growth targets, how would you say that you expect Skolon to grow in the coming years? Would it be through more end users, more upselling, higher prices perhaps? How would you balance between these three levers?
So if you look at the short term, as I was into a little bit before, I think it's important for us to continue to add users and build the footprint. We see a lot of potential there in more mature markets, but also like the newer one, of course, and new markets we will go into. So continue to grow that footprint is one important part. Then we also know that if we look at our our most high-paying customers, we know that we can grow the average a lot more. So that is also a potential we will continue to work on. So I think those two elements will be the key in the short-term growth going forward. So continue combining both of them, where maybe the more established customers will continue to contribute to higher volumes, with new customers coming in and adding on the user base, and maybe coming to the later stage a little bit later on. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think if we just quickly finish off here, what would you say that you look most forward to in 2024?
So looking to 2024, we had a very good 2023. Proud of the team where we are right now. So really looking forward to continue the journey. But of course, growth outside Nordics is a big focus and very interesting for us. But also, I think, like most important is to continue to create the value for teachers and students in the classroom. If we continue to do that, like we have done up until now, I'm also feeling confident that we will be successful in the growth and successful as a business as well. So that is our main targets going forward.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Oliver, and thank you to everybody else.
Thank you very much for having us. Nice to be here.
Thank you.